urban legends. The podcast about urban legends. And he's your host, that's right, Neil Chris Huntley. Hello and welcome to Urban Legends. Boo boo, Urban Legends. Boo boo, everybody. Boo boo. Hello, welcome to Urban Legends. I'm Chris Flynn and I'm in a great mood because I've just got myself a contract doing some voiceover work for a new food brand called International Space Bacon. It comes in 3 unique flavours: Beirut, Nairobi and Ottawa. Look for it at your local supermarket. And with me, as always, is a man who's also doing well in the world of finance/business because he's just brought out a range of candles. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. It is Mr.
Neil Herbert.
Hi, Neil. How's your week been?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Very good.
Yeah.
Did a bit of chandlering.
Bit of chandlering.
Yeah, that's a fancy name for a candle maker. Chandler.
Well, you'd know.
Or, the wacky one from Friends.
Could you be any more knowledgeable about candle making? Something like that.
Exactly.
So I've understand that you've gone for a more urban scent. Is that right? For people who moved to the countryside and missed the city.
Yeah, so you got kind of like,
kebab shop.
Yeah, kebab shop.
Diesel fumes.
Diesel fumes, yeah.
Oh,
overwhelming despair. Yeah.
Overwhelming despair. What does that smell like? All of the above.
Have to find out, yeah. Don't sell on that one.
Unemptied bins.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And I understand.
Bin strike, that's another popular one.
Bin strike.
Bin strike height of summer. We know about that in Brian.
Oh, nice one. And are you making them yourself, or do you kind of come up with a fragrance, then hand it off to someone else to actually do the donkey work?
I mean, I came up with the proprietary formation, but no, I outsourced
with your
my secret blend of herbs and spices.
Secret blend of questionable liquids.
Questionable, yes, smells and scents to be mixed into wax.
Just like going around pubs and pouring the sort of ashtrays with a bit of beer and a bit of fags in it into a little pot and boiling that down to get the essence.
Bit of bin juice in there. Bit of hobo sweat.
Yeah, just
all things you can collect cheaply or cost effectively.
Yes, very much.
But go a long way,
It's urban foraging, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's the way of the future, I think.
I'm just making the most out of the materials that other people don't want to use.
Yeah, like a womble. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Lovely stuff. So I think that you're going to be leading us in legend appreciation today. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. I'm going to be talking about Amphir Liathmore, or the terrifying grey man of the Cairngorms.
Grey man.
Indeed.
Before we start that, Neil, I don't know if you're interested, but there's been a new TV show that I've been watching.
Oh, is that so?
I'm a bit of a TV aficionado.
Unlike you. Oh.
Yeah, I know. I know that the listeners are...
They may not be familiar with the fact that actually you're quite an aficionado of TV.
Quite an aficionado. Quite the aficionado. I write for The Eye, the free newspaper given out at train stations, under the pseudonym of...
Just giving out Aldringham train station, isn't it? It doesn't get a huge circulation.
So I've been writing that, and so I've been watching a TV show that everyone's been going on about called Downtown Abbey.
Okay, yeah, I think I've heard of it. I've never really watched it.
Yeah, so it's what it's about is it's quite graphic. It's about
Okay. You tend to go for the graphic shows, don't you?
Well, they're all graphic.
Quite gratuitous as well. Yeah, you kind of. If that's all that's on offer, then what can you do?
Well, yeah, and it's about someone called Abby, played by Pele, trying to make their way in the tough downtown of an American city. I think Cleveland that'll do, won't it?
Probably.
Probably Cleveland. Yeah,
I imagine it gets pretty feisty outside the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That's right. Trying to
Trying
hustle,
to steal
outside.
ZZ Top's guitar strings or whatever.
Yeah, tries to do. Yeah, that's one of the episodes. Tries to do a heist. Just trying to get by, grifting. A bit of it's Pele, so a bit of sex work. And it's not for kids, that's for sure. But
doing fully nude again.
Yeah, always.
If you got it, flaunt it. To be fair.
Exactly. Yeah, take a few dick pills, flaunt it. So just hustling to get by in quite a cold world. Abby's originally from a British aristocracy family, but moved over to America to try and break away from that, make it big. But then they keep coming over.
There's horrendous reverse snobbery in Britain these days, Chris. Where's an aristocrat supposed to go?
That's exactly it. So and then they send over one of their henchmen. I think it's like the butler or something.
Yeah.
And you never guess who plays them.
Christopher Walken.
It is Christopher Walken.
Walken. Nice.
Christopher Walken plays.
That would be my first choice.
Plays the English butler. Steve Buscemi's in it. He plays Abby, sometimes pimp.
Okay. Yeah.
But he plays it really tongue in cheek, like his character in 30 Rock, is it?
He was the detective in 30 Rock, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he basically revives that character. So it's quite it's confusing. It's like what was the name? What's that weird show that was on Netflix, which is violent but has a cartoon donkey in it?
Oh,
played by
I've not seen it. It's called Barry or something like that.
Something like that. But it's like that. So it's like a weird cross genre thing. Anyway, so turns out that Abby is like next in line to become the Duchess of Winterbourne in the UK. Nice. And so they're trying. And so I think Series 2 is going to be a King Ralph situation, but we'll see.
I hope so.
We'll see where it goes. Yeah. So I'll give it.
10 strong.
It's a bit slow for me and a bit period drama, so I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10.
Okay. Not so keen then. You think you'll be coming back to Series 2, see if it picks up a little bit?
Yeah, I will always give. I've got a lot of time on my hands, so I'll always give things a good. If I didn't
doing it,
like Parks and Rec, Series 1 wasn't very good. Series 2 onwards was good. Maybe the last series kind of a bit silly, but I think the Parks and Rec writers are involved in Series 2, so it might be taking them another swing. So
that'd be good. Let's hope Amy Poehler or whatever her name is gets involved there.
Yeah, playing the Queen or something.
Maybe she can. Yeah, that'd be good. Wouldn't it?
That'd be good. Yeah, like double King Ralph.
Yeah.
So Neil, the Grey Man of the Cairngorms.
Yeah,
the Grey Man of the Cairngorms.
Yeah, I'm going to apologise to our Scottish listeners because it's probably going to be some terrible Scottish accents.
The Grey Man of the Cairngorms.
Yeah, Amphir F. Moore is in the Gaelic, so they've got the Grey Man of Ben McDew. So basically, it's the second highest mountain in the UK, I think, in Ben McDew. It's in the Cairngorms.
Bigger than Ben Nevis?
No, second highest. Ben Nevis is the highest, isn't it?
Isn't that Snowdon?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, right, maybe.
Here we go. It's all falling apart.
Well, I don't know. I didn't research the relative heights of mountains. I thought
it might be the second
height.
No, Snowdon is, and then Ben Nevis is the largest in Scotland, maybe. So it could be the second largest in the Highlands.
Could be. Anyway,
let's say that's the case for expediency.
I believe. Yeah, let's say that it's about. I mean, none of them are like Himalayan or whatever, are they? But it's around
20 feet high,
1.3 kilometres or something like that.
Yeah, but that's above sea level.
Yeah,
whatever.
Not good enough for you.
Not good enough for me.
Already started slagging off mountains in the UK. Outrageous.
No, we'll never go at the mountains in the UK. They all got too softened by the ice sheets during the last ice age. Absolute cowards.
Unbelievable.
Getting all worn down. It's because they're really ancient, isn't it? That's the thing, because we're not on a fault plate anymore. Some of the oldest rocks found geologically are from Scotland. Like, it's really ancient. So that's why the mountain ranges have kind of smoothed out over time, whereas in places like the Alps and the Himalayas and the Rockies, they're at the foot, or they're kind of right by a tectonic plate, so they're still being pushed together and formed, and that's why they're all jagged.
You just think like the Himalayas is just a bit out of east.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a new build or something. Just knocked it up like last Wednesday. Well, that won't last 10 minutes, mate.
In geological times, yes, they did knock it up last week.
I'll take your word for it. I don't know very little about it.
Well, I remember that kind of stuff from GCSE geography.
I vaguely recall that there's igneous rock and that's pretty much igneous is volcanic, isn't it? What's the one made out of like seashells and stuff and crushed by pressure?
Limestone?
No, there's igneous. There's like 3 different types of rock. Anyway, there we go.
I don't know.
Displaying our massive ignorance.
There's heavy rock, electro rock, and skater rock. Those are the 3.
Yeah.
Skater being the best, obviously.
Of course, yeah. Perennial fashion. Okay, yeah. So anyway, whatever. It's the second highest mountain somewhere, and it's in the Cairngorms, and it's it's high up for the UK. And stories about the Grey Man have been recorded as early as 1791.
Ooh, old one.
Yeah, so it's been around for a while.
That's a weird time, isn't it? That's a weird time for something to be starting, because I would say that a lot of the stuff we look at falls between 2. So one being ancient, so like being, like the Iloka or whatever, been around for ages, like an ancient history, like a whatever, and a lot of them being from about 1950.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, you get certain things that become popular. I mean, I wonder, because obviously around that period, you're starting to get people doing a bit more mountain climbing and stuff like that. I mean, if you're...
Do you reckon it was just a boring Englishman, and they called him the Grey Man?
Yeah.
A John Major type.
Oh, yeah, it was just a great assassination.
Stay away from him!
Start talking about property or something. It's really fucking dull.
Oh, what's the zoning like in this area? Are you able to put up?
It's mostly arable land.
Are you able to put up a garden shed without talking to the local parish council, or is it more officious than that? Is there more red tape? Do you have an alderman?
Noticed you don't mow outside your
own family
very often. That's unkempt. Yeah.
Your fence. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Your fence. I've been looking at the land registry. Your fence actually encroaches 7 inches onto my land. So I've informed the local council and the police, and I would like to hand you this notice that the works must be completed within the next 28 days. Otherwise, you will be going to the small claims court.
The lead will be getting extremely strongly worded letter. Yeah, I mean look, we haven't got round to the source of explanation yet, but
that's the most likely.
Let's keep this one in mind. So it's been described as being
10.
Yeah,
believability 10. Our entire fucking country 10.
I just want to make up something completely different. No, it's been described. So it's actually, funnily enough, it's not one that's had the sightings are quite strange, because a lot of them don't involve sightings per se. But
it has been a bit of a push.
Yeah, so it has been described as being about 10 foot tall in height, very long arms and legs, an ape-like head and covered in short hair. So you get into kind of exactly.
It could be one of my ancestors very easily.
It's been compared to sort of Yeti or Bigfoot. So we've got a local kind of Bigfoot Yeti claim. That's good. And you're saying about sort of the timing being weird. So, yeah, as I say, I don't know whether it's just would people have been going up too much into the mountains thousands of years ago.
Well, I think by that time we'd hunted bears to extinction in this country, so it's probably not a bear. Because we used to have bears naturally in the UK, but we hunted them to extinction, same as wolves.
They're quite tasty.
Well, they're fantastic for the sport of bear baiting, aren't they?
Absolutely. And bear dancing. Bear pole dancing.
Bear pole, all those bear pole dancing clubs down the East End.
Oh, good
Down
lord.
the docks.
In Soho in the 1060s.
Yep, shave a bear, put it in a dress.
Yeah.
Pimp it out to drunk sailors.
Yeah, they come in and it's the drinks that get them. It's like, well,
Yeah, get them on some of the get them on the tonics.
Don't tell them how much those are going to cost. It's like 10 times the price than normally. Yeah, it's a real money spinner, but sadly, I handed them down to extinction now. And that's probably why you grey man.
Sex work.
Well, exactly.
To become sex workers, yeah.
You hate to see it.
Yeah. That's why the RSPCA was set up, wasn't it? The Royal Society for the Protection of Animals, sexy animals, to stop.
Well, that was its original. It was originally RSPCSA, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Royal Society for the Protection of Sexy Animals, yeah.
Then as an offshoot of the temperance movement, they decided that not only sexy animals should be preserved by the rules.
Well,
that was George. That was the Prince Regent for you, wasn't it? He only liked to say the sexiest of animals.
He liked the sexiest of animals, yeah. And he had them
roving eye, didn't he?
He had them brought all down to the Brighton Pavilion, where he set them up in rooms. But unfortunately, once George had got hold of all the sexy animals, people started. It's like prison, isn't it? People started going. People have got needs. They started cavorting with non-sexy animals, such as I don't know. What's a non-sexy animal? They're all pretty sexy. They've got lovely eyes. I don't know, cuttlefish. No, I'm thinking Japan. I don't know, non-sexy animals. Anyway, you make your mind up. I'm not going to.
It's all in the eye of the beholder.
It's in the eye of the beholder. It's difficult though, isn't it? A difficult one to think of. Native animals to the UK that aren't sexy. Difficult.
I mean, like maybe a lungfish. They're pretty hideous looking.
Yeah, lungfish. Are they? Can you get them? Flounders aren't good. Any flatfish. It was basically just set up. The RSPCA was basically set up to stop people having sex with flatfish because they were the only non-sexy animal. True fact. True that.
The true fact today.
Fact for the day. Take that away. Tell your kids.
The earliest song. Teach them. Listen. You want to learn. Right. The earliest known account of legislating the grey man dates to 1791, coming from a poet by the name of James Hogg.
Oh, not a poet.
He was not only. Actually, this is a recurring theme from
poets aren't trustworthy.
And they're all quite sort of poetic in their descriptions, I would say. We'll get to the moment. So he was tending sheep on Ben Macdoo. So I don't know how good of a poet he was if he had a day job tending sheep, but.
Was he one of the sort of romantic poets who was wealthy but decided?
Yeah, he decided to go sheep farming in the. I mean, he was a grey man himself. Yeah, he was very much like a really description. Yeah, I don't know if he was actually Scottish or what have you. James Hogg
didn't have quite enough money to do the Great Tour.
Go down to Greece. Just go to Cairngorms, do some sheep farming. It'd be all right. Had a bit of money that way, no. So he reckons it was at least 30 feet high and equally proportioned, very near me. I was struck powerless with astonishment and terror.
So like a 30-foot high man, when he says equally proportioned, not 30 foot wide as well.
Yeah, exactly. 30 foot high with sort of, limbs and stuff in proportion.
That's very tall, isn't it?
That is 30 foot. I mean, because we've seen 10 foot is what we've been quoted earlier. But
10 foot's the height of a basketball hoop.
I mean, fear does add 3 times the height, though. So
that's true. They always say that, don't they?
Yeah.
Fear triples the size.
Fear trebles the height
of the
apparition
aggressor.
Yeah.
That's why everyone looks bigger on TV, isn't it? Because instinctively we're all scared of the little people in the box at the size of our room, in the corner of our room. What are they doing? Why are they looking at me? What, are they trying to get into?
Well, that's why TVs are a third the size of real life, because then fear actually just puts it down back to life size. That was the thinking.
It's the uncanny valley that gets us, though.
Yeah.
The Oz effects. Something's not quite right. Is that why you read books?
Yeah. But moving images just scare me.
I know.
All these moving pictures, I don't like it. I can just about cope with theatre. I mean, that's pretty grim, but stuff moving on the screen, haunting the glass.
Trying to get through it.
I don't like that. Well, you don't know what happens when it's turned off. Where have they gone to? What are they up to?
Got to your wardrobe.
Can't know, can you? Yeah, probably.
Got into the walls.
What are they after? I don't know. No good, I would imagine.
I'll have to get some David Soul posters up as wards.
Yes, exactly. Anyone's not understanding that weird joke. What was it? The Enfield
Poltergeist. We talk about David Soul posters and their and
if that's not alluring, I don't know.
David Soul posters being wards against poltergeists. And if that doesn't whet your appetite, you're listening to the wrong podcast.
Right.
To be fair, you're probably doing that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we can take that as read, can't we? So he's terrified by what he's seen. He flees home, turns the next day though to collect his sheep, because he's not going to collect his sheep. Don't care how terrified you are. And the creature returned, and this is where a lot of the sightings. He conducted a little experiment. He took off his hat and saw the creature did the same as well.
Ooh.
Concluded it was his own shadow in the fog that had so terrified him in the previous day.
That's possible, isn't it? Well, it depends on what kind of lighting there was. But
well, it's actually there's a photo of a shadow taken on where you can see this kind of like what looks like a man with really huge legs. But yeah, there's actually, I'm just looking up what the
name of it is.
What the name of it is. There's basically an optical illusion where if you're on a sort of big mountain, there's certain atmospheric effects or there's certain atmospheric conditions. Effectively, if you're above the kind of like the cloud lines below you, your shadow will sort of cast back onto the clouds. Yeah. Sort of reflect back at you. Okay. So you'll see like this for the corner of your eye, this sort of what looks like a huge person sort of walking behind you. So a lot of it, it'll let's have a look. It's what's this called? Yeah, Brocken Spectres, they're called. I think it was a mountain in Germany where they first identified this in
well, that sounds. Brocken Mountain. I think the Brocken Mountains were where they had their version of the Dark Watchers, which we've also talked about, the California Dark Watchers.
Yeah, so it's probably a similar thing. Yeah. And that's what, when somebody found out that and they thought, this is where all the kind of like Yetis and Sasquatches and things like that come from, because if you're up a mountain, you can have this atmospheric effect that, but,
not necessarily.
There's been a bunch of other sightings. So, and actually what you see is that actually it tends to be less of a sighting and more of a bit of a feeling and sort of an auditory thing. So let's take the... I think I love
more than a bit of a feeling.
Well... So this is an account from a Professor J. Norman Colley, who was a highly respected scientist and mountaineer. In 1896, he was the Professor of Organic Chemistry at University College London. He was responsible for the first ever medical X-ray photograph, Fellow of the Royal Society. And he was a big climber. Loved opium and in spiritualism. Now, those last two things are not necessarily true. I don't have those. Yeah, so he pioneered a lot of climbs over the Isle of Skye and the Alps. In 1895, he was part of the first ever attempt on an 8,000 metre peak in the Himalayas, Nanga Parbat. So I don't know how big Everest is, but that's pretty high. So, and he made a bunch of ascents to the Canadian Rockies. So he was into his mountain climbing. So when in 1925 he gave a speech at the 27th annual general meeting of the Cairngorms Club in Aberdeen, he's a man whose words carried a great deal of weight with his audience, and the impact of what he had to say about an experience he had while alone on the summit of Ben Macdhu in the Cairngorms 34 years earlier in 1891. I was returning from the cairn on the summit in a mist when I began to think I heard something else entirely than merely the noise of my own footsteps. For every few steps I took, I heard a crunch, and then another crunch, as if something was walking after me, but taking steps 3 or 4 times the length of my own. I said to myself, this is all nonsense. I listened and heard it again, but could see nothing in the mist. As I walked on, the eerie crunch sounded behind me. I was seized with terror and took to my heels, staggering blindly among the boulders for 4 or 5 miles, nearly down to the forest. Whatever you make of it, I do not know, but there is something very queer about the top of Ben McDoo, and I will not go back there again by myself, I know.
So that'd be quite spooky, wouldn't it, if you thought that there was... Because if it was really misty...
you can't actually see what's going on.
Yeah, because we get proper sea fog down where we live. No, we haven't had it for a while, but like we occasionally get very thick sea fog because where we live is between the South Downs, which is kind of a hilly range, and the sea. So the mist kind of gets stuck here, and sometimes you can't see the end of your roads, kind of thing, or even shorter than that. It's been very dense. So yeah, that would be quite weird. It's quite beautiful in the streetlights, but it's like old London town.
You don't want to go driving in it.
No, and it'd be weird being on top of a mountain on your own, and you had that kind of lack of
visibility.
Yeah, and you. I think that would just put the willies up you anyway.
Well, it would, but I think what's
the willies up you. I don't know why I said that.
Well, because you're 500.
Because I'm 500 years old.
Yeah. We are reading about somebody talking in 1920 or whatever.
My gosh, that's put the willies at me.
Contemporaneous expression. But yeah, but it's quite weird as well, is because if it was just like echoing footsteps, then it would be like everyone. But the fact that it's every third step that he takes, he's getting these crunches. So that's interesting. And there's also so that caused a lot of sort of a bit of a sensation.
Could it have been someone eating cereal?
Yeah, just like something like snap, crackle, and pop.
Yeah,
for every third step.
That's it.
Or they're just watching with a bucket of popcorn. They're just at the top of the mountain, just watching climbers, and then they're just trying to be quiet, but they can't help themselves.
Eating some delicious crisps.
Oh no, the problem is the sound really carries at the top of the mountain. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's just like
opening up that bag of Revels. I want to try and keep it quiet. It's just disturbing.
Like in a cinema. It's like really kind of. It's a weird thing, which sort of the people of the Highlands used to do. Just kind of sit at the top of the night. That was their entertainment. Sit at the top of the mountain, watch stupid English people stumble about in the mist, eating crisps.
Who decided eating popcorn in the cinema was a good idea?
Don't know.
It's quite noisy, isn't it?
Not really.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, you're a loud eater, though.
I wouldn't eat in a cinema, to be honest with you.
I've seen you eat a roast dinner in a cinema. What are you talking about?
That was a restaurant with a movie screen.
That wasn't. It was just a normal cinema. You kept claiming that. Opening your Tupperware with gravy. No, I don't know.
The roast dinner.
I don't know. It's nice having a bit of popcorn in a cinema, but I don't like the cinema, so it makes no odds to me, really.
Oh, fair enough. I like the cinema, but mind you, I've not really seen anyone eat popcorn in the cinema. I tend to go to one of the Yorks ones, Cheeky Yorks. Yeah, very nice cinema.
I think the problem I have in the cinema is I find the seats very uncomfortable. Because of my size.
I go to Cheeky Yorks.
Yeah, Cheeky Yorks is all right.
Sit in the sofa.
Yeah. And also you can't pause it if you need to go to the toilet.
There is that.
I don't watch a lot of films. As you know, I'm not a film aficionado. I'm a TV aficionado.
That's true, yeah.
I don't watch a lot of films. I don't know. I'm not really into films at the moment.
Fair enough.
I prefer kind of serialised stuff.
It's been a while since I've been in the cinema, I must confess, actually. So, yeah, I don't think I've been back since the pandemic's been over. So I still watch quite a few movies, but yeah.
I don't know, it's like, it's weird. It's kind of, if I'm going to watch a film, it feels like that's kind of takes up most of the evening. And it's like, I kind of rather do shorter length things, and I don't know.
Well, it's just a nice self-contained story, isn't it? Depends what you want. I mean, this is the thing. I think I quite like the idea of a movie being sort of like 90 minutes back and front. I don't, it depends. You can have much longer ones, obviously, but it seems to be sort of like more of a thing now where it's like,
people
actually, let's just make things like 4 hours long to sort of, just have pseudo value for money. But anyway. Right, so back to more Sightings of the Grey Man, less cinema chat. So a chap called Alistair Borthwick wrote apparently a superb 1939 book about climbing in Scotland. I should give a shout out here, actually. It's undiscoveredscotland.co.uk, I'm just looking at here. But he wrote a book about climbing in Scotland called Always a Little Further, and that relates, among other things, the accounts of two climbers he knew who experienced by what was then becoming Amphir Leathmore, or Felasmore, or the Big Grey Man of Ben Macdhu.
What?
Because of its appearance when briefly glimpsed by a feud accountant.
Oh, Felasmore.
So the Gaelic is Amphir Leathmore, or Felasmore,
which means
Big Grey Man.
Oh, okay, that's Gaelic, right?
Yeah, Scottish Gaelic. So the first was alone, heading over Macdhu for Gror on a night when the snow had a hard, crisp crust through which his boots broke at every step. He reached the summit, and it was while he was descending the slopes which fall towards the Larag that he heard footsteps behind him. Footsteps not in the rhythm of his own, but occurring once for every 3 steps he took. I felt a queer, crinkly feeling in the back of my neck, he told me, but I said to myself, nah, this is silly. There must be a reason for it. So I stopped, and the footsteps stopped. I sat down and tried to reason it out, and I could see nothing. There was a moon about somewhere, but the mist was thick. So it was another misty night. The only thing I could make of it was when my boots broke through the snow crust, they made some sort of echo.
Yeah.
Then every step should have echoed, and not just this regular 1 in 3. I was scared stiff, got up, walked on, trying hard not to look behind me. I got down all right. The footsteps stopped 1,000 feet above the Larag, and I didn't run. But if anything had said so much as boo behind me, I'd have run down like a streak of lightning. And you're getting a similar one for...
well, what I'd say so far, I mean, the people who are saying these accounts are not... They're not over dramatising it or anything. They're kind of
not exaggerating.
They seem pretty together. Do you know what I mean? So it gives it a bit more credence. But yeah, I don't know. It just strikes me as some sort of as yet unknown auditory like echo or something at the moment. Because
it could be.
Because why would it be exactly the same footsteps as yours?
Well, here's the
rather than kind of like do a footstep in between or whatever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But here's an interesting one. So the second man who had a similar experience, he heard the footsteps as well, and again it was quite dense because the mist was dense. He was actually having to use compass because visibility was nearly as poor as full night time. But he was hearing it kind of like, they said, did the footsteps follow yours exactly? He said, no, that's the funny thing, they didn't. They were regular, but the queer thing is they seemed to come every 2.5 steps I took. And what was queerer still was when I told him about the other man's story, you see, he was long-legged and 6 feet tall, and the first man was only 5'7".
Okay.
So see, depending on their height, so it sounds like it's just the stride that this thing has. So it's, a taller man, it's,
Interesting.
He was out on a search party on Macdhu, and one day, after an unsuccessful day, he asked some of the gamekeepers and stalkers who were there with us what they thought of it all, and they worked on Macdhu, so they should know. Had they seen Felasmore? Did he exist, or was it just a silly story? They looked at me for a few seconds, and then one said, "We do not talk about that."
Not to outsiders. Yeah. You better be getting going. Back to the city.
That's the thing is because obviously people have explained the sightings by the Brocken spectres.
Talk about that. Get back in your carriage. Get back to London. Let's get back to Edinburgh.
Yeah, so that's interesting that you're getting kind of like, because obviously the auditory thing you can explain that with the the cloud and the Brocken spectres, but there's one other. I think there was a chap just after the Second World War who'd again the interesting thing is that all of these, as you say, their accounts are quite sort of they're not sensationalised, but they're all people who are reasonably sort of like,
scientists and
trustworthy, you would say,
and that kind of stuff.
Thing. Because and then I'll go on to the last sighting that we've got in here. There don't seem to be any massively recent ones, but the last one I could find here was this is from a blog, I think it is, called Icy Sedgwick. Icy Sedgwick.
Icy Sedgwick.
Yeah, it's a good name, isn't it?
It's the name of a sexual position.
Is that like the rusty trombone?
Icy Sedgwick. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I won't do that twice.
Mate, you can't.
Yeah, physically
impossible.
1958 issue of the Scots. So a chap called Alexander Towan claimed a sighting from 1943. According to him, he was thinking of the figure when the mist rolled across the summit, having heard of Colley's encounter. A shape charged at him and he pulled out his revolver, fired 3 times, but didn't deter the figure. He fled, although he did admit he'd never had another encounter despite frequent visits to the mountain.
I thought you were going to say he admitted he'd had quite a lot to drink.
Yeah. Had a nip.
I might have had a couple of drinks before we went out of the house since. It's just a revolver. Yeah, that one's the least good of the encounters because he was already thinking of it, and he was drunk probably.
Yeah, he was definitely drunk and firing a gun wildly into the mist. I just like the fact that he fires his revolver at the mist. That's good. Sort of thing you'd see in a Hammer horror movie.
You can't shoot weather, can you?
This would make an all right Hammer horror movie, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. Mist's always
Misty
good.
Mountain.
Yeah.
Well, tell you what's good about Mist as well. Yeah. That's going to cover up for bad special effects.
Yes,
because you don't want to be showing this creature. Yeah, just a load of dry ice, and load of blood.
Just have a cardboard cutout of Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
Moving it, carry that around kind of in the mist, left and right. It's easy. We could do that.
Cut out one of those shepherd fairy things, can't you? And just
we should do that. We'll film that. That'll be one part of our road trip. We'll go up to Ben, whatever it is.
Could this be
with an ice machine,
Mythbusters type thing? Yeah.
and a large cutout of Andre the Giant.
Could this explain the grey man?
Yeah. On YouTube was Grey Man Spotted. Oh no, because that's really annoying when people do that and that's actually them trying to be funny. Like doing a really crappy version of it. Like the pig one, that was quite annoying.
No, I don't.
The Owlman one was just mental.
That was fine because I genuinely believe they were. I mean, I don't know whether they believed in it or not, but they were trying to do something that it wasn't just like a stupid.
Yeah, it wasn't just like ha ha ha.
Hilarious hoax or whatever.
I've got a scratch on my arm.
Well, he did. He did. Yeah, go back to our Owlman of what was it? It was somewhere in Cornwall, wasn't it?
It's called him the Owlman.
Yeah. Anyway, he's the Owlman. Okay, so what could be the explanations? So could be a Yeti or Bigfoot.
Yeah. Seems unlikely.
Seems unlikely because
no footprints.
Yeah. Well, they did find some footprints, but then somebody thought that was down to precipitation. I read somewhere else here somebody had got a photo of a footprint, but then they thought that was just actually down to rain coming in the rocks. And you're on a lot of rocky ground here, so you're not going to see a lot of footprints. But
right. Oh, okay. So it's it's not muddy and stuff. It's like rock.
No,
like
it's literally like bare rock. You're above the tree line. You're above kind of like it's quite high up, and it's mostly sort of bare rock. It's quite. If you see a photo at the top of the Cairngorms, it's sort of kind of beautiful, but it's sort of a bit. It's quite an alien landscape. But it looks you got like this bare rock. I mean, I guess they would be start there depending on the time of year. But the photo I've seen of the summit, actually, it just looks it looks a bit like Brighton Beach, to be honest with you, on a mountain.
Shingly.
And then one of those, you load of rocks, a bit of moss on them and stuff like that. But I imagine depending on the time of year, there probably is snow.
Yeah, you get some snow, but then I doubt that many people climb up there when it's snowy. That's probably not what they would consider climbing season.
Yeah, exactly. So that might be what it is.
So some kind of Bigfoot.
Yeah,
what else?
Could be a Bigfoot.
Anything else?
We have a theory according to Icy Sedgwick. So could be aliens.
Right.
That's another explanation over this.
Right.
I mean, to be fair, they're taking the mickey out of that. So another explanation involves aliens because, of course, it does.
Right.
I mean, it's fair enough. It could be wrong. And
it is grey. And famous aliens are grey, aren't they?
They used to say they're all little. Do you reckon it could be like the parent of the get the little grey man, don't you?
Right, I'm going to go and wait at the top of the mountain.
Badly behaved alien children.
Yeah, dissecting cows.
So if you're an alien mature adult, you just go out and do a bit of hill climbing. Yeah, I'll stay in the midst.
I'll get my 10,000 steps.
Yeah, people might hear me.
Yeah,
but
they won't see me.
They'll just write that off. They'll write that off as just
somebody eating
as hallucination.
They'll write that off as Highlanders eating cereal.
Yeah, probably will be.
So aliens,
the Highlander with a bucket of popcorn in the mist. That'd be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there hasn't been any. Normally, alien sightings would involve some extra stuff like lights in the sky, that kind of thing, wouldn't it? So there hasn't been anything like that from what I understand. So it seems unlikely.
I mean, you can explain anything with aliens, can't you?
Yeah.
I mean, you might as well say magic. Just,
Yeah.
So, talking of which, a third of it refers more to the area than the creature itself.
Magician.
In this theory, Ben McDoo becomes a liminal point between two worlds.
Right.
The Grey Man thus becomes a guardian to prevent people from wandering between the two.
Mm.
So, and I believe ley lines are involved in here somewhere.
So it's like it's where two worlds or dimensions could be a point where
you could be a portal between two places.
Interesting.
Maybe they want to come through, but they don't want you coming through to them.
But he comes through to our side to stop us going to his side.
Have a look.
It's like the India and Pakistan border.
Could be, yeah. Gets a bit feisty if you try to get
feisty.
And then the final theory they're proposing here is the Grey Man could be a manifestation of the spirit of the mountain created physically in the viewer's mind.
Mm. That's nice. A bit Shinto, isn't it?
It's nice, isn't it? Yeah. Actually, what I did on another one of these websites, they do mention things like Shinto and stuff like that. It's just kind of like, you could imagine that's how some of these kind of things do come across. I mean, it's interesting to me, as you sort of saying before, that the fact that the initial sighting only goes back to the late 18th century and doesn't go back anymore.
Yeah, that is interesting to me.
Well, I mean, but it might be as well, because a lot of apparently when I've forgotten the chap's name already, but the initial kind of like the more serious one that sort of came out.
Yeah.
It was only after he kind of like spoke about it at that sort of mountain climbing conference or whatever that a bunch of other people explained similar stories, because they always felt a bit ridiculous, kind of like they didn't want to be sort of mocked.
And the locals said, we don't talk about that. But also, mountain climbing really only sort of became a sort of gentlemanly pursuit in the 17th century, didn't it? Before that, if you're like, a shepherd or something, why are you going up to the top of a fucking mountain?
You wouldn't go that far.
Why would you bother?
What they're going to eat.
It's dangerous, and it's not, that whole kind of, why did you climb it? Because it's there. That was, that's very much the pursuit of someone who's bored and has plenty of money, which wouldn't be the case if you're, a Scottish farmer in the 70s, before that. You might go up.
Absolutely.
They might go to certain places for ritualistic purposes back when it was pagan, like because a mountain could mean something spiritual. But I mean, it could be that mountain was just a mountain. Like, why would we bother going up there? Because it's dangerous, right, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's dangerous to go up there. And if you've got no reason to do it, then
why would you?
Why would you?
Yeah, so I think as I was saying earlier, it's kind of like, actually, could it just be that people weren't doing that for sort of fun prior to that? Because it's sort
or maybe
more of a Victorian era thing.
Or maybe the Grey Man is more in tune with the people who are actually from that area, and they've been there for tens of thousands of years, and he's like, they're all right, leave them alone. We're all.
And they're not going to tell anyone else outside about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. They know, but they don't talk about it.
Exactly. They know how to keep their mouths shut.
Yeah. Snitches get stitches. What Grey Man says.
That is what Grey Man says, yeah. Could be that. I mean, he could be the head of a gang, couldn't he? Blood in, blood out. Gang of Highland shepherds.
He picked a fairly remote location to do whatever gang-related business he's doing.
Well, exactly. Right outside of the eyes of.
Do you think smuggling's quite quite rife in those liminal spaces between worlds.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of smuggling into Scotland, like whiskey galore kind of stuff. Got a lot of smuggling going into Scotland. The Highlands are pretty empty, difficult to police. They can get whatever he wants smuggled into the coves of Scotland.
It so happens that on planet Beta X 561, they love haggis.
They absolutely love
and deep fried food. So
yeah, I love oat bread.
Prime point for smuggling otherworldly goods.
Maybe that's where Quakers come from. I'm just saying. Maybe they come from this other dimension. It's possible now. They are pacifists. It's unusual for a Christian denomination. That's all I'm saying, Neil. Got to keep an open mind about Quakers.
So the final thing they just sort of point out here is you get similar kind of auditory things in the Black Forest in Germany. So they've got the Misty Grey Men again. I think this is the Brocken spectre from the Harz Mountains in Germany.
The Brocken spectre.
But they've had sort of people complaining of being followed through the forest as well. So yeah,
is poltergeist a German word?
Yes, I believe
because Geist sounds like German for ghost.
Well, Geist is like Zeitgeist, isn't it? So it's spirit. Geist is spirit or ghost.
What's polter?
Polter, I don't know.
Active. Violent.
It'll be something like that, won't it?
Yeah, active, I reckon.
Mardy. Noisy spirit.
Noisy.
Apparently.
That's some poltergeist.
Means literally noisy ghost from polter, which means make noise, rattle.
Make a noise / rattle. Like rattling chains.
Excuse me while I just sneeze in the microphone. The polter comes from poltern, which is German for make noise or rattle.
Make noise, it'd be one. Make noise or rattle, but they're two different things.
I mean, there might be many different German words for making noise.
Think so. It's like a rattling go.
The rattling type of noise.
Yeah. So, rattling chains.
I guess make a rattling noise is how you'd want to interpret that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they translate as noisy ghost.
Noisy bastards. So, are there any more bits on this?
Could be a poltergeist up the
Cairngorms.
Yeah, creating.
Well, it's that'd be das.
That'd be a crunchy ghost, wouldn't it?
Crunchen Geist.
Stepping Geist.
Crunchen Geist.
Steppen Geist.
Could be. Maybe we've discovered. Well, we haven't discovered it. Maybe we've reclassified.
Theorising.
Reclassified another form of Geist.
I think that the taxonomy with imaginary creatures is quite tricky.
Well, spectre sounds like a German word as well, doesn't it? I wonder if we got all of the ghost words from when the Angles came over.
It could be that, or I mean, Germany's going to have quite a few Latin roots as well, I would imagine, isn't it? So quite a lot of this.
Nah, different from the Romance languages.
Fair enough. So that's pretty much it on the Grey Man, to be honest with you.
Well, these are right. Scotland's answer to Sasquatch.
Yeah, and what I kind of like about this is you settle on the fact that there's some people who actually
some seemingly trustworthy people, not nutters.
Yeah. It's not like an insane story, but there's some quite interesting things. It's something to think about. It's going up mountain.
Don't think about it too hard before bed.
Day. No, you don't want to speak yourself.
Don't want to speak yourself. Get yourself into a grey man mess. So let's go through our scoring system, which has recently been taken up by NASA to verify the usefulness of washers on their spaceships. So, the first one which we and they use is spookiness. So
spookiness, yeah,
that's a spooky washer.
It always comes in with quite a low rating on their washers. It turns out, from the odd one, which is Why did I make a vampire shaped washer? Who knows? I think this.
That's how they weed out the anarchists.
Yeah. You're not going to make it in NASA's time. I mean, it's not like tremendously haunting, but it's kind of like, I can imagine. I mean, obviously, you've got some sort of credible people here that are, I think that, the idea of something kind of like you're up climbing by yourself, doing a bit of a walk up a big mountain, and then something, suddenly starts sort of haunting your footsteps. I think that would put the sort of the wind up you. You're in kind of like quite an alien landscape. It's kind of like it's all very misty. You can't see that much, and then you sort of like start seeing things or hearing these things. But yeah, they don't. Whatever the grey man is, it doesn't seem to want to do them any harm, or there's not been any sort of like coming tremendously close. But
that we know of.
Yeah, I think that we know of. But then how many didn't come back from the Cairngorms?
Exactly. We don't talk about it.
To the grey man. Yeah, we don't talk about that. So yeah, it opens up a vista of terrifying possibilities. So yeah, I'm getting not like the biggest fear for me, but I think there's something eerie, I shall say. So I'm going to give it a 4.
4. I'm going to go a bit higher. I think that if you're up there climbing around on your own, I think you're already a bit nervous because it's a dangerous area to be in. I mean, it's not like being on top of the Himalayas, but, you can still slip and die. Do you know what I mean? It's rocky. It's cold. If a fog comes in, your senses are going to be heightened because, adrenaline will be pumping. And if you did see or, you saw something or heard something, I think it is quite scary, and especially if it sounded like it was following you. Now, whether that is a grey man or an auditory hallucination or whatever, I think it is quite a spook. I think it's, for them, a spooky situation. Do I find it particularly spooky personally? Not really, not particularly, but it would be a scary situation to be in, although it hasn't done anything out of order yet. So, yeah, I think I'm going to give it a 6 for spookiness now. So, believability. So, what makes it more believable for me is the fact that the people haven't come down making outrageous claims or saying, right, I was followed by a ghost or a yeti or whatever. They're just relaying facts which were odd and the fact that they found it weird. And it seems pretty consistent what people have been seeing. And even some people who have seen something have then gone on to try and explain it scientifically. So that gives it more believability to me. So I believe that something's going on there. Do I believe it's someone guarding an interdimensional portal? Maybe not.
Less likely.
It's less likely. But I mean, it sounds like there's some phenomenon going up there, be it natural or supernatural. And for supernatural, I'm going to use the broader sense of something beyond our current knowledge rather than it's a ghost. So yeah, I think it's quite believable that there's something going on that particular bit. So I'm going to give it a 7-0.
Yeah, and again, I think, what gives it a bit more credence, as you say, is that the sources seem like they could be quite reliable. And one thing I will say, the sort of mountaineers, there's probably an element of sort of romance there already. I think I had read somewhere some of them, might have been a bit more into those kind of things. But I think also they also got quite poetic descriptions. I don't know if that's something about the period in which they were talking around these things, where people use something.
They learn how to write correctly.
Yeah, they use a good level of education, etc. But so I mean, there might be a sort of level of sort of like them being sort of predisposed towards these kind of things. But yeah, I mean, they seem like reasonably credible sources, as you say. Not necessarily thinking it is like some huge grey man or whatever, but the believability of something happening that might be a bit strange in the mountains. I remember hearing a while back there was some somewhere in some town where this really weird noise was sort of coming around. And I think it was something to do with I don't know, like vibration of the earth or whatever. But people were hearing it and then sort of almost didn't want to admit to sort of hearing these things. What on earth was going on? Anyway, so
there's been a weird one. Who knows? There's somewhere in the Appalachians where basically people were seeing these lights flying around. I've been seeing them for ages and ages and ages, and people sort of didn't talk about it. But then it was actually recently looked into scientifically, and what it was is some kind of refraction, and it's the lights from. So it's scientifically. Like, it's been scientifically explained now, and that's fine. But for years it wasn't, and it was considered like weird and supernatural, and people didn't speak about it. So just because something doesn't have an explanation yet doesn't necessarily mean people are bullshitting, or it's some crazy nonsense, or people just lying. There aren't one. Not every single part of everything everywhere has been scientifically looked at. So,
no, absolutely. So, yeah, it could well be. So, I mean, I don't know. It's so it could be that after this, it could be that somebody had a sense of humour and sort of made this stuff up, and then people kind of like decided to follow on with it.
Just be a good old
that's one possibility. Yeah, or it could be that there are, people are genuinely hearing still these kind of things up there. So, I think it's reasonably believable. So I'm going to give it a 6.
6 reach, Neil.
So probably not massive reach on this one. It's been going around for, I guess, was it a couple hundred years now?
300 years.
So that's not too bad. The first sighting there was 1790, wasn't it? But and as far as we know, and that was the chap. It was more kind of like him getting a shadow.
Getting on for 250 years.
Seemed to go back, yeah. So more or less, but
232 years now.
Although a lot of the sightings are sort of, in a sort of 50-year span or something like that. So
the golden age of climbing.
Yeah, so it could just be that. So I don't know why they don't have any sort of necessarily many more modern ones. But it's one of those ones. I guess it's going to be, I'm not seeing any sort of TV shows or movies, but it's a bit more of a strange one. But I don't know. I think it's not got massive reach, this one. So I'm going to give it a 3.
Yeah, so I've not heard of this, and it's quite an obscure one. It's probably known in the local area, and the local area probably has about 100 people. But it has been going around for 232 years. So for that reason, for longevity, I'm going to give it a 4. So narrative / premise. So it's a decent premise. It's quite original, I would say, when it first came out. It's not something where someone's heard something and thought, right, I'll do that. So yeah, that's decent. I mean, there isn't much about. It's just some really tall bloke who follows you around on a mountain. So there's not much legend or story there. It's not like the sort of locals kind of have a story, going back to, Celtic times or whatever of what it is. It's just, so there isn't really much of a story there beyond the effect, or what would you call it? Not the effect, the
phenomenon. I don't know what you're looking for.
Yeah, beyond the phenomenon itself, there's not much else there really. And there hasn't been, I mean, it's a bit half-hearted, the explanations. I like the Shinto one because I like a bit of animism personally, but and the dimensional one, it just seems a bit kind of aliens, don't know, it's not, they've kind of not really made much of an effort.
And that particular one was a bit of a light-hearted article that was just sort of saying, here are some explanations people have, don't necessarily take them too seriously.
Yeah. So
I think most of them don't try and explain it, which is fair enough.
Yeah, it's fine. So I think it's a 4 for me, just because it's quite thin gruel.
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from. I'm going to go a bit higher because this reminds me a little bit of, you'll get a certain strain of, I think it's quite a British kind of thing in terms of the ghost story. So it's something like, or British and Irish, so something like Le Fano, or kind of like, I don't know, things like, you'd see those kind of like TV shows like the Stone Tapes from the 60s, where it's something that's quite sort of weird and quite low, not particularly like massive or something coming out and killing everyone or something like that, but you get these kind of like horror things where it's something that's just a bit uncanny, do you know what I mean? Like, I saw a reflection on the thing, and it was, it's a metaphor for death or something like that, or or Don't Look Now, or something like that, or the twist in that is extremely odd. So it's something that's kind of like quite low key, but kind of quite spooky as well. And I don't know, those kind of things for me,
psychological horror rather than slasher.
Yeah, exactly. Something that will stay with you after you've watched the film or read the book or something, and then kind of like, it's not terrifying, but it makes you sleep a bit more uneasily. So there's kind of like a low
that kind of catching something out the corner of your eye rather than a demon attacking you.
Yeah, so you're not quite sure. Yeah, exactly, because that'll give you like a jump scare, but it's it doesn't stick.
Well, stuff that's on the edge of our perception is always spookier than stuff that's over, I would say, from a psychological horror point of view. Little tip for filmmakers there.
Alien's better if you don't say too much of it. But yeah, it's kind of like so I'm coming at it from that angle, and so all I agree, it's not like there's a massive backstory here or lots you can do. What I quite like is it's just kind of like an era. It's a bit more of a mood piece narratively for me. So I think David Lynch could make a good movie out of this. So I'm going to give it a 6 for that basis.
Okay, and that gives us a overall score of 40, right in the middle of the bell curve.
Yay!
Half marks. Right. Well, that's not too shabby. That was an interesting one. I've not heard of that, and that's fairly local. We haven't looked at too many urban legends from the UK because we're globetrotters. We like to look all over the world,
around and see things from different places. Yeah.
And I'd like to say that. So I've only just figured out how to look at analytics on Spotify, and it turns out we've got 22 followers. So if you're one of those people, thank you very much. If you're not and you'd like to follow us, then please do. If you don't want to do that, then that's fine. It's up to you, innit? Your funeral. But if you've got...
We'll be admitting the level of followers we've got.
Yeah, why not?
If you say something like, we got, 10,000 followers.
Yeah, but that makes people feel less special.
That's true.
No, look, it's a new podcast. We're weeding out the unwanted audience members. Is
that what we're calling it?
Yeah. But if you've got anything that you'd like us to have a look at, or got any comments or anything like that, you can get in touch with us at herb.legends.podcast@gmail.com. Those details are in the episode description. And beyond that, I will say, get wandering up mountains and see if you can find something and start your own urban legends. See what you find, yeah. If you do that, then make sure you let people know where you're going. Wear the appropriate gear. And I would say probably go with someone who's got a bit of a local guide. Yes. I would say.
Bit of knowledge on what's going on.
Bit of knowledge. But, beyond that, have fun, be careful. And
enjoy any optical illusions you see out there.
Yeah, and I'll speak to you next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.